Welcome to this episode of the Aquarist's Edge, a podcast for home aquarists just like you. Learn more about how to keep a thriving aquarium and discover ideas and tips to give your aquarium the edge. And now, over to our host, Arthur Preston.
In today's episode, we're going to compare two fascinating methods for creating low-maintenance natural aquariums. On one hand, we have the Walstad Method, and on the other, the Father Fish Method. Both of these approaches have dedicated followers, yet they differ in philosophy and execution. So whether you're just starting out or you're an experienced aquarist, we'll help you understand the key differences and which might suit your needs best. So let's start by introducing the two personalities behind these methods, Diana Walstad and Lou Foxwell, who's also known as Father Fish. Diana Walstad is a scientist and an aquarist whose book Ecology of the Planted Aquarium changed how we approach planted tanks. This book was published in the late 1990s and emphasized harnessing natural processes to create sustainable ecosystems. It's an interesting read, and I do encourage you to pick it up if you have an interest in this side of aquarium keeping. Her method is rooted in biology and ecology, and it draws on her research background. She proposes using soil as a nutrient source for plants, mimicking the natural processes found in lakes and ponds. And her book remains a cornerstone for aquarists who want to explore low-tech natural setups. On the other hand, you have Father Fish, or Lou Foxwell. He's been keeping aquariums for a very long time. Through his YouTube channel, he's inspired many hobbyists over the years with his relaxed and practical approach to aquarium keeping. He's not a scientist in the formal sense, but he has years and years and decades, in fact, of hands-on experience and a knack for explaining complex ideas in simple terms. His method builds on Walstad's principles, adding a unique twist focused on creating deeply layered substrates that support self-sustaining ecosystems. So let's take a look at the basics of each method. We'll start with the Walstad method. This aims to replicate the nutrient cycling found in natural water bodies, and this is how it works. First, you have the substrate composition of a nutrient-rich soil layer of about 2.5 centimeters deep, capped with about 2.5 centimeters of gravel. She proposes dense planting with fast-growing plants that outcompete algae and absorb nutrients. She suggests that fish are added straight away as they contribute to the nutrient cycle through their waste. She proposes moderate lighting that supports plant growth without encouraging algae blooms. And in terms of water changes, she does suggest that these are done, but not often. That they're minimal, and the occasional water changes are done to maintain the fish health. So Walstad tanks are celebrated for their simplicity and their ability to thrive with little intervention once established. Father Fish, on the other hand, while he also emphasizes natural processes, he incorporates a thicker substrate to create anaerobic zones, which he claims provide long-term nutrient availability. And so here are some of the key elements of his approach. In the first place, he would suggest a 2.5 centimeter soil layer, but instead of being topped with only a 2.5 centimeter layer of sand or gravel, he says create a 5 centimeter topping of fine sand. And he says the dense sand cap locks nutrients in and promotes anaerobic bacteria. He also suggests adding organic materials like compost or leaf litter, which are often mixed into the soil for a nutrient boost. He suggests that fish can be introduced as early as day 2 and that the sand cap prevents nutrient leaching, which makes early stocking safer. In terms of water changes, Father Fish created controversies some months ago with a video in which he said water changes are necessary, and of course in the aquarium community that created quite a stir. And there were numerous well-known YouTube personalities in the aquarium world who produced their own rebuttals to his video. But in a nutshell, he says that with minimal feeding and little to no water change, the ecosystem of the aquarium will keep a natural balance. And so he advocates for tanks that are almost completely self-sustaining, with substrates that can last indefinitely under proper conditions. So let's have a look at those key differences and controversies again. And firstly, let's start with the substrate. Walstad says it's a balance between aerobic and anaerobic processes with a thin gravel cap. Father Fish, on the other hand, says we've got to rely heavily on anaerobic zones created by the thick sand cap. And this distinction sparks debate over long-term sustainability and the ease of maintenance. And critics argue that Father Fish's method can lead to hydrogen sulfide buildup if not carefully managed. In terms of water changes, again, Walstad says occasional partial water changes, particularly for the good of the fish. And Father Fish, on the other hand, says water changes are basically unnecessary once your balance is achieved. And so this difference highlights a philosophical contrast between the two, Walstad prioritizing adaptability while Father Fish focusing on creating a self-sustained or contained system. In terms of ease of setup, Walstad is beginner-friendly, and the whole process is very well documented in her book. Father Fish's approach requires more upfront work to create the enriched substrate. And some people find that Father Fish's method is intimidating due to its complexity, while others appreciate the long-term benefits of reduced maintenance on his method. Now, both methods have their supporters and their detractors. For Walstad, the critics argue that the soil's nutrients are depleted within a year or two, and so this requires replanting or resoiling. Whereas for Father Fish, the opponents of his method worry about the risk of anaerobic zones, which can include toxic gas pockets that could harm fish. And yet, despite these criticisms, both approaches have been proven effective when implemented correctly. So I guess that leaves us asking, which method should I choose? So my suggestion would be, choose the Walstad method if you're new to planted tanks and want a simpler setup, if you're interested in learning the fundamentals of nutrient cycling, and if you don't mind occasional water changes. If, however, you want to look at the Father Fish method, do this if you're seeking a long-term, low-maintenance solution, and if you're comfortable with a more complex setup process, but also if you want to minimize water changes as much as possible. Look, at the end of the day, both methods can produce stunning, beautiful, healthy tanks. And so the best choice depends on your preferences and your willingness to experiment. We know that both these methods can work. We know that both can produce stunning tanks. We know both can provide a fulfilling experience for you as an aquarist. Do your homework, do your research, watch the videos, read the books, find out from other people who are doing one or two of these methods, and see if it'll work for you. Experiment and try it out. At the end of the day, whatever method you choose needs to work for you, your time availability, and your long-term view of what you want your aquarium to be. So go ahead and try one of these methods with your aquarium. At the end of the day, you need to do something that's going to work for you and your livestock. In conclusion then, the Walstad and the Father Fish methods represent two sides of the same coin. Both celebrate the beauty of natural aquariums, but their approaches differ in execution and philosophy. So from my side, why not try both? Experimentation is the heart of aquarist innovation. Have fun with this, enjoy it, and enjoy creating a beautiful, underwater, natural, self-sustaining ecosystem. So that's it for this episode. I will see you at the next one. Take care, enjoy your fish keeping. Bye for now.
That's it for this episode of the Aquarist's Edge. Please consider subscribing to this podcast so that you don't miss further episodes. We would love it if you would also rate and review the podcast, as this helps make it visible to others. Until next time, keep learning and discovering, and keep finding your Aquarist's Edge in this captivating and fascinating hobby.